Welcome back. Saturday marks the 250th anniversary of America, and UBS is celebrating the milestone with a series called 250 Years of U.S. Innovation. Each report highlighting uniquely American innovations, which have not only transformed the U.S. economy, but also shaped the world. UBS is the world's largest wealth manager with approximately $6.9 trillion in invested assets, or assets under management. And when you take a look at the flagship private wealth business, it manages UBS Asset Management Division, $2.1 trillion in AUM. Joining me now is UBS's Chief Investment Officer for the Americas and Global Head of Equities, Ulrike Hoffmann-Burchardi. Ulrike, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
Before we look at these reports around 250 and all that you've identified in terms of growth stories, assess the market for us right here, Ulrike. We're coming off a very positive first half of the year, with the second quarter a blowout, double-digit gains for all the major averages. To what do you attribute this backdrop?
Yeah, we see three pillars of this strength economically, but also in the stock markets. Number one is the strong government spending across the world. We have the US, China, Germany, and Japan fiscally stimulating. And then in the US in particular, we have the AI CapEx story, and that's now 2.5% of US GDP. In our estimates, going to 3% of US GDP next year. And then lastly, we have a strong consumer. Retail sales have been up again in May, and we think that is going to continue to be the case, at least for the foreseeable future. Our outlook on the US stock market is still positive into year-end. We have a price target of 7,900 for year-end.
Wow, that is, of course, on the S&P 500. You've got to believe that the big, beautiful bill and the president's efforts here in terms of getting supply chains to America and changing tax codes, specifics on business and consumers was part of this huge push for these markets in the first half of the year. But let's talk about these reports that you're out with around the 250 anniversary. The company, UBS, is the largest wealth manager with $6.9 trillion in assets under management. So you're sending these to your clients, and you're talking about specific themes that you believe will continue this melt-up. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we think that innovation in general is still an underappreciated lens in the investing world. We identify three structural pillars of growth over the next decade. Not surprisingly, AI, that is a topic that we identified 2.5 years ago, made a commitment, have a global team that is fully focused on it. Equally, power and resources. Of course, we have heard more about the energy and also electrification issues that we are facing. And then lastly, longevity, which we think is going to be an $8 trillion annual revenue opportunity by 2030. So three structural growth drivers for the global economy over the next decade. And, when we looked at the 250th anniversary of the U.S. this year, we thought, why not celebrate 248 days ago and do a series on what has driven the economic growth of this country. And we started with the railroads that were one of the biggest transformational cycles, not just for the global, but also the U.S. economy. And we were able to showcase just how much productivity growth has come from these large transformational innovations. 2.5 to 3% productivity growth annually for sustained periods of time, if we just think about railroads, electrification, and the internet. And we think these three topics that we identified will be the driver of more productivity growth in the decade to come.
Yeah, that is great, because a lot of people are comparing this AI build-out to the Industrial Revolution of the early days of America. We spoke with the CEO of Union Pacific the other day, and he was telling us about once Lincoln signed the Railway Act, it enabled people to move. So you had people creating, new lives and new growth stories for themselves and their families by just getting on the railroad and going east or going north, and it just built out the country. But I want to get back to those three items, because you talked about AI, you talked about longevity, and I want to zero in on those two. On AI, you said that it's still underappreciated. Where do you get that? I mean, why do you feel it's underappreciated? You're saying that major firms do not have dedicated teams on AI still?
From an investment lens, we still see the industry largely being organized by countries and sectors, yet these opportunities are global and they're cross-sector. So aligning teams around those opportunities, I think, is a very big organizational strategic move. And we at UBS have done that over 2 years ago. In terms of underappreciated by the market, I don't think AI is underappreciated necessarily in terms of what it can do, but maybe underappreciated in terms of a disruption. Very much like other parts of historical innovations, what we are seeing is that AI is very likely going to reimagine the digital economy in a way that the internet has reimagined the use of computers, in the way that the electric motors have reimagined factory floors. And I think that is a lens that we increasingly need to focus on in order to determine who are the winners, but also who are the losers of these transformational innovations.
I like that a lot. Now, on longevity, Ulrike, what are you looking at in terms of sectors? What are the sectors that are driving this longevity theme? I know we're trying to get ahead of disease. We're living longer. Is that what you're focused on? Do you want to invest around that theme?
Yeah, we are invested very heavily in pharma and medtech. We think GLP-1 is one of the biggest breakthroughs since recombinant DNA. It's not just, as you said, Maria, it's not just treating the consequences of a disease, it's actually preventative. And we are hearing more and more indications, not just obesity. And by the way, obesity is a huge market by itself, 1 billion people globally. We are addressing a small fraction, single digits at this point. But we are also seeing more and more indications that GLP-1 can address cardiovascular diseases, liver, kidney, sleep apnea, and potentially even neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, like Alzheimer's. We've been talking a lot about that as well. Ulrike, I know you have a weekly podcast, Signal Over Noise, where you talk about this a lot. And you've talked about next year in terms of the money moving into AI and longevity picking up. Is that right? On your podcast, you said.
Yes, we think that you need to be invested in pharma, in healthcare right now in order to balance the portfolio. We have seen in particular with our 3 portfolios that healthcare, US pharma in particular, is a great ballast on days where, you know, there is worries about the AI capex. Again, we still think AI capex is going higher over the next year, but you need a diversified portfolio, and we think diversifying in these 3 structural opportunities and being exposed to all 3 is the right way to position portfolios.
Very good. We'll be watching. Ulrike, great to have you. Please come back soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Happy 4th of July.
And to you, Ulrike Hoffmann-Burchardi joining us. We'll be right back. Stay with us.